You're muted, Fleck. You're muted, Fleck. I mean,
I
useless.
forgot to unmute myself.
Professional
I was,
broadcaster.
do you know what? Well, exactly. And because I'm a professional broadcaster, when you're in, the Sky studios, it's all done for you. You don't have to, I don't have to unmute myself and mute myself. What's going on? You've changed, Fleck. You're no longer a fan, Fleck. You want it all done for you, Fleck.
You
Yeah.
know what you're doing, actually? You're doing a KG. I don't know if you saw this the other day or heard about this.
Oh,
KG,
okay.
this is unbelievable. He went live on his channel to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo. He
Yeah.
spoke whilst he was muted for 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Literally close to 5 minutes. I tried calling him. It was that much. I literally calling him. He didn't look at the comments. And to see his face once he realized, you saw him mouth, let's go to the comments. And then he looked, he went,
I've not been unmuted for like the whole 5 minutes.
just
Only
occasionally you
KG.
would see lip reading of swear words, Ronaldo, all this kind of stuff. Oh, it was tremendous.
Yes, that is typical KG fashion. Um, we have to get into this now. I don't think there's room for jokes in this first part of the show, unfortunately. Because no, Owen, is true because the saga continues, the saga intensifies. The De Jong thing is the De Jong thing. But we have the latest breaking news from David Ornstein this morning. And big up to the community. Smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new. I feel like already on Twitter, a lot of fans have made their voices heard and felt as they have done this whole period. And when you get news like what Ornstein's just put out, the people that have said, move on from the Frankie de Jong situation, get real, he doesn't want to come. This is almost the perfect bit of news for those people who are like, see, what are we doing? We've been wasting 3 months on this guy or however long it's been. Get out. How do you see it? And what is the latest? What do we have?
So it's an interesting one because to give a bit of behind the scenes, we were discussing this morning that it was actually quite quiet. And then suddenly, bang, just before 8 o'clock, we get this Ornstein bombshell. And I say it's a bombshell, but it was a little bit added on to Chelsea going after another player, Mark Cucurella. And it's a little bit at the end of it where it says Chelsea are also in talks with Barcelona for Frankie de Jong and hope to strike a deal. Now, when United fans saw that, they went, what? What's Excuse me, Chelsea are also in talks with Barcelona for Frankie de Jong and hope to strike a deal. Now, this is nothing new, it must be said, because Chelsea have always been lurking in the background. We've heard it for a while when it comes to this Frankie de Jong deal. Of course, United have been the front runners if de Jong wants to leave the club. But Chelsea have always been lurking. So the fact that they're now in talks with Barcelona for the player and hope to strike a deal is a bit of a development. Now, Ornstein has since clarified this a little bit because people will, these Barcelona aggregators and all this kind of stuff, and people in Holland were going, wow, that's a bit of development. Ornstein has said, quote, this refers to striking an agreement between clubs. The player side is a different matter altogether. As far as we know, De Jong's preference is to stay at Barcelona. Messi situation, and Messi with a
That bit's the
Y,
key bit.
not Messi with
That
an
bit's
I.
the no.
Messi with a Y.
That yeah. Well, or it could be a messy with an eye
Messi, that's
situation
me,
where
a
they're
Messi
trying to force
situation.
him
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that bit there is the key bit. And I'm not just look. I'm not going to come on this stream to battle the case for everyone to stay calm. It's going to happen. Why is everyone saying this? Because, quite frankly, I completely understand
Quite
why.
frankly,
Quite frankly, can't say frank. Quite frankly, I completely understand why people are losing their minds with this, why people have lost patience with this, why some said many months ago, go away from him. So I'm not actually here to say, what are you all moaning about? Why is everyone doing this? I'll be an idiot to do that because you can clearly see why it's a mess. But I just think it's important that we dissect what has actually been said versus what hasn't actually been said. Do you know what I mean? What has been clarified from the horse's mouth of David Ornstein, by the way, versus what hasn't been clarified. And that last bit, I think, gives massive context because obviously alarm bells go off. My alarm bells went off as soon as and it's so funny because he's just, oh, and by the way, this has happened as well. Like, usually Ornstein would kind of like, that would be the main tweet, like exclusive Barcelona, strike deal with Chelsea, hijack. But it was like he said, off the back of the Cucurella one, like, oh, and I found out this. But alarm bells were going off, and I was like, that's a big issue. That's a big issue because then now we're going into a territory where we are solely relying on Eric Ten Hag's pull of the player and relationship with the player, and relying on Frankie de Jong's word that he said he will join us once all this is sorted out. Because if you think about it, we all know as Man United fans, we love our club, but let's get real. If it's Manchester United versus Chelsea for the signings and of Frankie de Jong, of what you can offer the player, Chelsea win that hands down at this precise moment. Where we have a pulling power is obviously Ten Hag. But then when you see the second part of it, and I'm just breaking it down for context, and I'm not saying it means the deal's on or off because we don't know. That bit that says, well, the player side is very, very, that we don't know. He still wants to actually stay in Barcelona. So actually nothing has changed. This is just Barcelona. Of course, they're going to accept any other bids that come in for Frankie de Jong, not just Man United, because we know that they want rid of him. So really, this is them just still trying to push him out the door, accepting another bid, get a little bit of a bidding war going on. Maybe they get some more money. Of course, Barcelona are going to do that. But the key thing is there. It's not that the reports is Frankie de Jong has made his mind up and has chosen Chelsea over Manchester United. He's still actually saying, according to reports, which is different to what we're hearing from the club, he's still saying he wants to stay at Barca. His tact has been strong at that. And maybe his tact has been strong at that for two reasons. One, because it's true, because he just doesn't want to leave and has no intention. Or secondly, because he's not loosening up his grip on that 17 million and the fact that actually, as soon as I say I'm open to leaving, I have to be open to waving goodbye to X amount of money. And I'm not prepared to do that. I'm going to dig my heels in. I'm not leaving. I'm not going. I'm going to make this as difficult as it can be for Barcelona, especially with that. Is it June the 24th? August the 24th or 14th, one of those dates where they have to actually register the players.
The registration window, something.
The registration window, whenever that is, coming up in the next couple of weeks or so, especially with that looming. Him and his agent may have, and this is me just bringing another theory to the table. Him and his agent may have said, whatever happens, we stick with, we want to stay. That gives Barcelona the biggest conundrum to sort. We don't speak. We're being professional. You're on the tour. You're playing in the games. You want to stay. Meanwhile, Barcelona are agreeing every fee under the sun. Maybe it's that. I don't know. What's your take?
I had a couple of different sort of reactions to it, it must be said. When I first saw it, like everyone else, you go, because again, they've been lurking, Chelsea. And my initial reaction was, Chelsea have been lurking, but they haven't really initiated talks with the club, not the player, but they initiated talks with the club. Why now? What have they heard? What have they been told? Have they received some kind of signal that these deferred wages and his willingness to leave has that changed? Is that the reason why they've decided to initiate the talks? But my other reaction to it was my another reaction to it was Chelsea are looking to get to the same stage that Manchester United are currently at, whereby they would have agreed a deal with the club for the player. As Ornstein mentions, nothing's been agreed when it comes to the player. United, they've had a deal agreed with Barcelona for weeks at this point, but they are no closer to signing Frankie de Jong because Frankie de Jong isn't even interested in negotiating with any club. You know, he wants to negotiate with Barcelona first because he wants to get his money first and he wants to get all of that chaos surrounding him sorted. So Chelsea could get to the same stage as Manchester United where they agree a deal with Barcelona and the fees of 75, 80 million, what have you, but they could still be at the same stage as United where de Jong's like, well, I'm not even willing to talk to anyone at the moment. The issue becomes, as I mentioned, if that hurdle is overcome, when say de Jong does get his salary stuff sorted, or say de Jong finally goes, oh, you know what, I'm sick of it, I am going to leave, or I've come to the conclusion I am going to leave. Then if it does become a choice of he has two options on the table, Manchester United and Chelsea, realistically, and it must be said in his piece, Ornstein has also said that de Jong would prefer to live in London if he is forced out of Barcelona, which sometimes we do forget. That is a sway, especially for foreign players. Sometimes they'll go, I'd prefer to live in the capital rather than in Manchester. You know,
100%.
Hub of the country. All the time. So it then becomes Manchester and Eric Ten Hag versus London and Champions League football. And if that is the case, Manchester United are going to have to be hoping that the reassurances they got once upon a time are still strong. They're going to have to be hoping that this relationship that is apparently there between Ten Hag and de Jong is there and very strong. Those phone calls that are happening every day, are they still happening? Is de Jong even picking up the phone anymore, responding to the WhatsApps or the iMessages? I don't know. All of that kind of stuff becomes a problem. I think the general feeling is that if De Jong would leave Barcelona, he would come to United because it's a one-horse race. We're the only one really in for him. Once it becomes a binary choice of other clubs that have more to offer than we do, we've got our manager that we can offer. They've got Champions League football. They've got a good location. They've got a club that has won stuff in the recent history, in the last few years, whether it's the Champions League, whether it's whatever.
Yeah, facts.
That's the concern.
I completely agree with you. And you know what? Back to the point of you raised of like Chelsea have now come in with the bid. Like the same way that we have said, and this is where we have to be impartial. And the people that are saying the deal stinks and move on, you have to hear their point. We've said for ages that Man United are at the table with a bid because they've got assurances. They wouldn't still be at the table that they if they haven't got assurances from the player. We were told as well here at the channel that is the case. Factually, that is the case. De Jong has said he will come to Manchester United if he sorts out what he sorts out, and we obviously wouldn't still be at the table if that wasn't the case. So we know that fact from the club. However, Chelsea don't wait that long. Seeing the position that we've been in, where it's a saga, he hasn't chosen yet. And ahhing. I think didn't Todd Bowley meet Laporta as well a couple of weeks ago? Laporta was
for a
on
meal
record.
when he showed up. We're here for a meal.
Laporta said the other day we had a nice meal. We didn't talk about any transfers. La da da da. The next day, I think that was yesterday. I was seeing Laporta say that. There was a video of him saying that. The next day, Ornstein comes out and says, right, they've agreed a fee with Chelsea, or there is direct contacts. They're working on a deal, and it's like Chelsea wouldn't do that. How stupid would Chelsea be, having missed out to Barcelona on Koundé, on Rafinha? They've been nicking. They've taken Christensen. I even read that they want Aspilicueta.
Yeah,
they want Alonso. You know what I mean? So they've had their pants pulled down by Barca. So for Chelsea to entertain talks and get into bed with Barcelona after being stung this whole window, there has to be some form of reassurance that Todd Bowley's gone.
There has to
right.
be a catalyst. There's got to be a catalyst. There has to be a catalyst for them to
and
move.
That worries me.
They've been waiting.
They've been
waiting the whole time. They've been looking at United, waiting. And the big question is, like you say, why now? What have you heard? What have you been told?
The only answer is they've heard something positive. It can, unless they're just damn right stupid. Which, look, it's not for me to try and mug Chelsea off and you know what I mean, go in on them. But they would. I don't think it takes a rocket science to say they would have to be stupid if they put a bid in, knowing what Barcelona have hijacked a couple of their players already, hijacked a couple of their deals already, and more importantly, they've seen the way Barcelona are handling this whole Frenkie de Jong situation, how long we've been chasing him, and we still ain't got him. So to make it a three-horse, a love triangle, and they want to get involved in the saga because they know what's gonna come. Because like we've said, the player still hasn't made his mind up that he even wants to go to Chelsea. He's still saying he wants to stay at Barca. So they want to chance their hand in it. Are they saying, all right, we have other options as Chelsea, but you know what? It could be interesting. Just in case it falls through with Man United, here's something on the table. Here's a proposal. Here's his contract. Here's his wages. You know what, Frankie? If it don't work out, here we are. Or is it, well, no, we believe we'll be polled for this. Man United ain't in Champions League. If it falls down and he doesn't stay at Barca, we will be front runners. And we spoke to his agent, and he actually did say, yeah, if it doesn't work, he would prefer to go to London if you put something on the table. Is it that? And if it is that, we're absolutely screwed.
And from the outside looking in, you could say that probably there might be more than just a Chelsea United that would be interested in signing Frenkie de Jong this summer. But
especially late doors.
But they've seen the turbulences that United have had trying to sign him. And again, the saga of his contract or whatever. And they've gone, you know what? We would be interested, but we don't want to get involved in that. We got other things to do. So for Chelsea to sort of take that risk of being, okay, we're willing to get really into the weeds of that one. There has to be something. Otherwise, like you say, it's just sort of blind. Well, we feel confident that if we come in, once we get our interest concrete, then he'd choose us. That would smooth. We've got what United don't have, essentially, Champions League, and that's enough to sway him. So it is concerning, but as of right now, that concern isn't full-blown worry for me because, again, I think they're trying to get to the same stage as United. I think the concern is for United as well, isn't it, as a fan, is that it's been, 13 weeks, 14 weeks this saga is going on for. And the idea that he could end up, if it's one thing for him to stay at Barcelona and then we go, oh, what were we chasing him for that whole summer? It's another thing for him to leave to another Premier League club, a Premier League rival. It would be, I mean, the just enormous embarrassment.
Yeah,
Absolutely
if
enormous
he ends up
embarrassment
at
for United.
Chelsea, if he ends up at Chelsea, I mean, we will deserve every bit of laughing stock labeled at us, John Murto and Richard Arnold and the people doing the deal.
And they would deserve it.
We'll
They would
deserve it.
absolutely
We'll
deserve
deserve
it.
it 100%. Obviously, at this point, that hasn't happened. So if you're on the air of optimism or on the air of, listen, I'm just not talking about this until the window's shut, until I know what's going on. Because actually there is that side of it as well. The fact that we've taken ages, Chelsea have undernard, Chelsea have actually put a bid in, but the player still hasn't said he'll go to them either. He still hasn't said that. He's still saying he wants to stay at Barcelona. But the club are telling us that, behind the scenes, they're stepping back to let him sort out the wages. This is all wages driven. This is all because he is owed a massive amount of money. We put in 65 cash up front, raised it to 75 cash up front because of that reason, an extra 10 million to try and help with the deal, to try and put more money in the
Plus big
pockets,
wages.
guaranteed,
Plus
the
big
big
wages.
wages, so Frankie's not going to be out of pocket from that. But obviously, we can't solve the 17 million pound problem. 17
Even
million
though we've
euro.
tried to, even though we've tried to, well, we should.
Even though
And
we tried to add an
realistically,
extra 10 on.
even that, you're like, come on, why
We shouldn't
really?
even needed to do that.
Yeah,
Exactly. So
exactly.
we've and I was told that we have reached our map. Like, we're not going any higher. Like, that's it. But also, Barca have agreed that. We know that's been that for ages. It's all on De Jong, and this Chelsea thing doesn't actually mean he's chosen. I think it's important to remember that it doesn't mean that he hasn't. As of now, he hasn't chosen Chelsea over Manchester United. As of now, he's still digging his heels in, creating a problem for Barca, sitting tight and sticking with his original intention, his original strategy. Do you know what I mean? Which is, we stay here, we say we're staying. The problems with Barcelona, they need to find a way to give us our money. Because if you think about
Yeah.
it, if you are him, because you don't have loyalties to Man United, you don't have loyalties to Chelsea, your loyalties to yourself, right? If you are him, or let me just say, look, I don't want to put words in other people's mouth. If I was him, let me speak for myself. If I was him, I would play it exactly like this. I don't know what you would do. I would literally do this. I know people say, like, you're an idiot, they don't want you, why are you trying to stay? They're playing you centre back. But I think we have to remember that this is about money and contracts. It's not necessarily about him not understanding that they don't want him anymore. I think he understands that, in my opinion. I think it's about working out the best strategy to get what he's owed. And if that was me, if I had to take the pelters and sit tight and say, I'm not going anywhere, I want to stay here, I don't want to leave, I would probably go down that route, because as soon as you accept that you're going to leave and they say, right, okay, see you later, lovely, okay. Yeah, but what about my 17 million? Where is it? Like, do you know what I mean? I'm not going to stay here and accept a pay cut. Like, you give them more of a problem. I probably would deal with it like that. But everyone's different. Everyone's different. Some people are saying, just get out. They
Yeah.
don't want you. Just leave. You're rich anyway. Write it off. But I don't think we get to say that.
I probably would even once you get to that level of wealth as well, it becomes matters of principle, not necessarily matters of money. And I think that's what it is with him. They said before, it's a matter of principle, and not just the money. It's the way that he's being forced out. It's the way that the money's hard to come by, and they're saying you got to take a pay cut whilst they're signing other players. It's the fact that essentially they've negotiated this deal with United and now Chelsea behind his back, but also in the eye of the media. Everyone knew what was going on, really, apart from him. All of that kind of stuff plays into it, where you would dig your heels in. You would go, no, actually, this was my dream move, and you're trying to make it a nightmare. Treat me with some respect, pay me what I'm owed. Be honest with me, because you're not in the media. You might be in these private conversations with my agent or what have you, but at the same time, you're saying out in the media, we've got no intention of selling me. Yeah, I also know that you're negotiating deals with 2 other clubs. And once you said it one day, you were negotiating the next day.
And
That's
also in the media,
not
they're also
right.
saying, we can't rule out that he stays. There are economic stuff. We don't know. Hopefully he
Exactly.
stays. We want him to. But there are some important offers. They're giving they're giving everything out in the media. Everything.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. And
Nothing
if
is
I was De
exclusive.
Jong, of course, you would be going, okay, no, I want to get my money. And also, as well, even the reassurance of, yeah, you'll get it. I'd be like, no, I want it now. I don't want it in
Yeah.
writing. I don't
Yeah.
want anything like that, because I don't know what's going on with Barcelona. Okay. Activate the 700th lever or whatever you've got to do it. because I thought so. They did their third one the other day. It was they sold off part of their production company or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, even I saw that doesn't necessarily affect their, their salary cap or the way they register players. That's literally just like cash in hand of players that they can buy. So, like I said, after this summer, I have no interest in negotiating with Barcelona ever again or being involved in the Barcelona transfer saga because it's too much. And that's why I say, from the Chelsea perspective, of be careful what you wish for, be careful what you're getting yourself in for, because
Yeah.
it can get messy. And that's what Ornstein has said also, is that one, like you said, his preference is still to stay, irrespective of the club that comes in for him. And two, it's a messy situation.
It's a mess, yeah. And for Ornstein to say that, well, if Ornstein had the Frankie de Jong wants London, Frankie de Jong wants Manchester, like if he had that, he'd say it. But for Ornstein to, he's a very honest journalist. I don't think he does clickbait or tap-ins or anything. He's very down the line. What he says is what he knows. Do you know what I mean? And what he knows is what he says. I feel like
And several times people aggregators get his stuff and he'll come back to him and go, no, I didn't say that.
yeah, which is basically, I mean, there was another, I think it's the Ajax account that said, wow, basically just talking about something that somebody else put. And then, like you said, and that's another good thing about Ornstein, when he feels the need to go in and clarify, he will. And the fact that he did that is big, because he's basically saying the player fee. I'm just saying that they're in talks to agree a fee with Barcelona, which obviously Barcelona are going to say yes. They want as much money for him as possible, especially if they offer more than what they've already said yes to Man United. It's not even like we're battling to get a fee agreed. We've been in that for like 3 weeks now. That's fine. But for him to clarify the player situation and double down on that, to say that I don't know, that bit's messy. He still wants to stay in Barca. I ain't got a clue. That's basically what he's saying about that. It's a messy situation. So I think it's important that we've done it in this way. We haven't. I don't think we've just come on here and gone crazy at one side for saying, "Oh my God, the deal's over. It's done. We're an embarrassment. We're this, we're that." Because you could still end up at Man United. You can.
Yeah, it's not the time. It's not the time.
It's not the time yet
to do that.
And also,
right yeah.
But also, I think it's important what we've done here is and it's correct to do so. Not come on here and, like, people who are starting to panic say, "Oh, you idiots! Why are you doing that?" Like, oh, it's fine, and because at the end of the day, we can't give them assurance. No one can give them assurances. This is a mess. This is a saga, as David Ornstein said, quote, messy situation. So I think everyone's entitled to go with where they want to go with this and how they want to feel, as they are with every single thing that pops up in the fan base and different bits of news and different situations that happen. So I just think where I stand, my closing statement on it is I definitely am more worried, 100%. I'm not going to lie about that, because again, if it does arise that it's a toss-up between us and Chelsea wins hands down. We're relying on a word that De Jong gave to us before Chelsea even made an offer, and we're relying on the relationship between Ten Hag and the player to be strong enough than the lure of Champions League, the lure of Chelsea imminently challenging for stuff, and Chelsea just being better than us. We're relying on that. So that worries me. However, I still haven't given up hope. I have not given up hope, because there is still hope there, clearly. Do you know what I mean? And not just because the club said to us. I'm not just listening to the club and because the club said it, I believe it. It's just me looking at the whole thing. Even this coming out today, it doesn't say that De Jong has chosen Chelsea. It doesn't say that. It just makes it more difficult for us to sign him. So there's still hope, but I do admit that it was less hope than before. What were you saying to finish off on De Jong? And then we'll take some.
No, I agree. As I mentioned before, there is the reaction of, that's not the direction I want that to be moving in. But there's also the part of it where I say they'll get to the same roadblock that we've got to. But there is part of my brain that goes, why now? And I feel like that question, why now, is they have to have heard something. They have to have got that reassurance. Or, maybe it's panicking on their part. For some reason, you get these people saying Chelsea have had a terrible window, which I don't necessarily see. Yes, they've had a couple of people turn them down, but they've still signed Sterling, Koulibaly. They're linked towards a couple of other centre-backs. They've still signed decent players. So maybe it is panicking on their part. Look, they've still... Also, they've got a new owner that wants to splash the cash and impress this summer in his first window as the owner. So they want to do big things. So it could be just completely like they've just decided now they want to go and try and get him because they gets closer to the season and they're getting desperate. I don't know, but I go back and forth on this De Jong one so much. A couple of weeks ago, I was really confident that we were going to get him. And then once he was going on pre-season, I was like, oh, maybe not so much. And every time they activate, a financial lever and they buy players, you go, part of me does go, Barcelona have signed these players somehow. It wouldn't shock me if somehow they managed to pull off him staying. Some financial wizardry that none
Oh,
of us
imagine
understand
that.
or nobody understands. But you know what I
Jeez.
mean? It wouldn't
Nah,
shock
surely
me.
not.
It wouldn't shock.
Well,
They've spent the most
unless
out
De
of
Jong
anyone.
backs down. Unless, yeah, it's true. But unless he backs down on the fact that he needs to take these pay cuts and fall in line. Unless he backs down on that, I can't see it.
I don't know.
I
I
can't.
don't
But
know.
you can't
I
rule it
still
out.
don't
You're
know
right.
how
You
they
can't rule
spent
it
the
out.
most out of anyone this summer.
Yeah, it's insane. Let's get super chats out in order. We've got Afghan Papers. Afghan says, have you guys seen Gary Neville's tweet? I haven't. Is it, unless it was the one from yesterday when he was like, have we signed Jong yet? Is it that one, or is there a newer one that's of interest? I'm not sure. I think Owen will probably have a little check there, see if he sees anything. Big up to Ganzo. Says, I know I'm overreacting, but as an 18-year-old who's never seen United win anything major, I've pretty much lost hope we can turn it around. McFred starting. It's obviously different fans, different ages, different eras and generations. It is tough for the younger fans when you think about it, because we forget that. Like,
Yeah,
there
we
are
do.
genuinely like 15-year-olds and even saying that 18-year-old making me feel old that won't remember us winning the title last. In 30, like
It is
they
true.
won't.
Like I can't exaggerate enough to, like I said, the younger fans or whatever, just how it used to just be
Yeah.
as a fan going into a season, you'd know, oh, we're probably going to win the league or we're going to win some, like you'd win something every season.
Just weren't sure
And
what it was going to be.
yeah, and it's only now during these sort of tougher times in terms of winning stuff that you just realize how spoiled. I mean, certainly people of my
100%.
generation were, but you've also got
Yeah.
people of the older generations of the 80s or the 70s where they'll go, welcome
Seen it
back to
worse
our
than
world.
this.
That's what we had
Yeah.
to go through. So
Yeah. There are still
football is
some fans saying
cyclical
they've
like
seen
that.
it worse than this. The older
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the guy I sit next to, Joe, season ticket holder for 30 years, I think, 25, 30 years, something like that.
Mhm.
And he says, I was there, mate, when we got relegated. Like, I've seen it worse than this. And it's like, you struggle to kind of comprehend that it's
Comprehend
worse
it.
than this,
Yeah.
because this is all we know, that this is the worst we've ever seen. But it's
Mm.
true. There are
Yeah.
people who who've seen it worse. David Hunt says, we could have got Antony for 50 million if we didn't stick with this saga for so long, because we have Ajax put the price up to 80 million, so we've lost Antony too. Yeah, I know, obviously that was a lot of people's take on why Antony, we didn't get him. Me personally, David, big up for the super chat. I just personally feel that we didn't get Antony because he wasn't the priority over De Jong, over a centre back at the time.
The
That's
issue
just
then
how I
becomes
feel.
is that if we don't get De Jong, then you can look at things in retrospect, can't you, and go, wow,
100%. There's the money
you
there.
know,
We could
yeah.
go get him, and I see people's frustration. Mark Harris says United is bigger than De Jong. He is no George Best. He is no George Best, 100%. And Manchester United is bigger than De Jong. I completely understand that. But the manager really, really wants him. He sees him as integral to this, and we're backing our manager. Although we've got so much more to do in the window, we've still backed Ten Hag with what he wants. Like, he wanted Malacia, that wasn't ours. He wanted Martinez, we wanted Pau Torres. Like, we've got him, and then Ericsson, obviously he wanted him, but that arose and is a freebie, so that was a no-brainer. But let's not act like the signings we have made aren't what Ten Hag wants. It's not like we've just given him them because we went, oh well, here you go, you have to have this. He's vetoed them. He wanted them. Hence why we're still in for Frankie de Jong and haven't run off and done something else, because guess what? He's probably still saying, fine, I want him. Ganso says, lesson is don't ever give United benefit of the doubt. Why do we all assume that United are only chasing the deal because he will come? Last 10 years says otherwise. Basically saying the sample size doesn't suggest that. And a lot of people are in that camp that we're not good at doing transfers. We never have been for a long time under this regime. And this is further proving why we're not good. We haven't gone out there and executed deals at the rate that we wanted. We haven't got enough players through the door by the time the season starts. And people who say that, they have got a point in terms of the why should I believe that we're going to change? Do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, the record says otherwise. So until I see it change, I ain't moving my opinion. I get why people say that. Ginger Fury says the fans will go into anger if this happens. I think you mean is if Chelsea sign De Jong. Yep, they definitely will go into anger. Stephen Lilly says, I don't see how De Jong stays at Barca in a World Cup year with all their new signings. Xavi and Barca will ruin Frankie's chances. Look what Timber was told as well. So, yeah, interesting stuff there. with the Frankie de Jong situation. Smash a like on the channel, subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so already. Next up, Sesko transfer priority, Owen. What's going on here? Is this going to be another saga that's going to start now? What are we talking about here?
I love saying the name Benjamin Sesko. Okay, I've done my
Oh,
pronunciation. I've done
okay. Where's that come from?
I looked up on YouTube. I looked on a video, and it was a proper thick accent. And he literally went like this. He went Benjamin Sesko, and I went, "Oh, okay."
Oh, is that going to be you
So,
every time you say it then?
but I
How'd you
can't
say
stop
it?
saying it now. I'll be sitting here typing away, and I'll just go Benjamin Sesko, and then carry on typing away.
That is so deep and just random. Like you just
Yeah,
like so unnatural to you. But
I'll
every
yeah,
time you say it, that's what you're going to say.
I'll be Benjamin Sesko. Yes. You're muted again, Fleck.
Benjamin, as in
It's a soft J. It's a soft J. So Benjamin, not Benjamin, Benjamin,
Yeah.
and then Sheshko. But you have to say it in that accent. Benjamin
Shes.
Sheshko.
So the Shes is like, it's the Sesko is not SES, it's like SHE.
Yeah.
Okay.
Benjamin Sheshko.
Phonetically. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Anyway,
so what do we have on X player?
That's it. Just his name. I thought I'd just bring up his name this morning because I like saying his name. No, Fabrizio Romano has said. Now we've been linked to Sasha Kalajnik. I didn't pronounce. I didn't practice that,
That is
one.
quite difficult.
That is a difficult one. We've been linked to him, but he's a name that's been monitored. But Benjamin Sheshko is higher on their list. He's also said, quote, I've been told Benjamin Sesko will make his decision on his future
I'm not
this
sure.
week.
I'm not sure you have to say it on every.
Because make a decision on his future this week. This week will be very important for his future. That is apparently irrespective of what happens with Cristiano Ronaldo and the attacking situation. It's a case of this week's the important week for Sesko. You know what is funny, Flex, is that when he was first brought up, we completely poo-pooed that he was coming to United. Now it does feel like it could be a possibility. The price that's been quoted is between what they say 40, 45, 50, possibly 55 million pounds. I think that is, which is a lot, 19 years of age. Would you say, considering how light up front we are, I said, and across the attacking line, would you say he's what we need, or do we need more the players in those wider positions?
I don't know, Owen. I don't know because the Ronaldo situation is obviously the biggest thing right now. If he stays, it's fine having Ronaldo and Martial. Even like if Ronaldo stays, obviously we'd have to get past the initial. It's always a shock factor at the start of anything when it happens. Oh, I can't believe he stayed. What's Ten Hag going to do? But after a few weeks, once it evens itself out, you forget in it, especially if we're winning games and scoring goals. But I just feel like if Ronaldo stays, then because like you were saying, we can't afford to let Ronaldo leave because who replaces him? So if Ronaldo stays, it's more of we need that versatile forward because we're one injury away to Sancho, to Rashford from not having anywhere near the quality that can come in. You could argue that if Ronaldo stays, it also frees up Martial to be able to come in on the left-hand side if it's not working for Rashford as well. So we can kind of fill in both positions. But ideally, we want to be stacked properly and have a like for like in each one. And Martial's been playing more as a forward, as a striker for us when he, in the last few seasons, that's where his main positions has been. It's been Marcus Rashford on the left, Martial up front. Then when Martial was out of favour, obviously Ronaldo. So for me, do I want Sesko? Shit, I'm not going to say it how you say it. That's your thing. Do I want
Sheshko.
Benjamin?
Sheshko.
Do I want Shesh? Do I want Sheshko?
That's how you say it. That's how you say it.
Do I want? Yeah, but I just feel like I'm doing like that Del Boy, like really, you know, like when the British go abroad and it's like we try and do the quick accent to like. I'm just
Del Boy speaking French. You speak French, don't you, Del?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Bonaparte. So
Monge too. Like I'm just gonna say Sesko for the purposes of this video. As we get more on him, I might change. But anyway, do I want Sesko? I look. I'll be honest. I don't know a lot about the kid. I don't know a lot about the kid. I was reading some reports that were saying. Actually, no, it wasn't some report. When I was in Sky on Monday, a couple of the reporters there were talking about some information that they'd been told that what could be likely is that he goes through the RB kind of hierarchy. So the next step is going on to Leipzig.
Just the Haaland
that's
route,
the next
basically.
step up. Yeah, do you know what I mean? that would be the next logical step for him, because they still want him to develop. They still don't think he's there yet. However, if a big offer comes in of this 50 million euros, then maybe something can be done. So I don't know enough about him to say he'll be absolutely fine. Yeah, back up to Ronaldo, no problem. Or sorry, Ronaldo leaves. Yeah, we'll have Martial and Sesko as the options. I don't know enough about him. I don't. I've not seen him play like that. I'd only really heard of him in the last week or two ago. I'm being honest. And if some people may have vast more football knowledge than me, especially in Europe. I didn't know a lot about him. So, but Man United clearly are in for him. That's fact as well. Again, we were told on Monday there's a player that the club are aware of and have interest in, but a deal will be hard just because of the price on him. So the club do want him.
He's on the list. He's on the list.
He's on the list.
The club. The club
Yeah,
knows
but
him.
it isn't. But
Yeah.
it isn't just a false. He's on the list. He actually
No.
is, and they are exploring, and they have had contact with the agent. They are actively trying to move for him. So the club clearly. I'll be surprised if the club have never heard of him, and all of a sudden they've seen him play against Liverpool the other day and gone, right, okay, that's enough. Although some people would argue with how we've been moving with transfers, that is very Man United like. Oh, he skilled out Trent and and Milner and made them look an idiot, and then he scored a goal. Yeah, that'll do us. But yeah, I just think a lot depends on the Ronaldo situation. And two, I don't know enough about him to co-sign him to say he's definitely what we need. I don't. I literally don't. But the
I
club
don't
want
think
him.
we'll sign him. I don't think we'll sign him. I think, yeah, I think the price tag and Salzburg's reluctant to sell. I think that might be a next year thing, and by that point, he might have already gone. He might, like you said, he might go through the RB system. He might go to Leipzig in January or something like that. I don't know. So, but I think not. And my preference personally would be an attacking winger, particularly on the right hand side, because I think the last 2 games of preseason was such an eye opener for that. It was the perfect example of why Ten Hag wants Antony or wants that wide player, because if Sancho gets injured or he gets ill, that's it. We've got no one, and that is a recipe for a long season, I think.
Agreed. Sorry, I'm on mute. Agreed. It seems a bit far-fetched, doesn't it, right now? But whilst they are in for him, and we do know there is concrete meetings planned, and this week is the decision time. You never know, Owen. You never know. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and haven't done so already. Remember, you can join the UV Members Club if you would like to as well. Owen, what we got next?
Well, speaking of those wide positions, Antony's still possible. We're still holding out hope, Fleck. Yeah, it's still possible. Fabrizio Romano has said, I wouldn't rule anything out for Antony, as he's always been a top target for Manchester United. However, the club will not spend upwards of 90 million euros on him. A deal will only be possible if Ajax are willing to negotiate different terms, but so far Ajax have insisted they are looking to keep Antony for another year. And that Ajax account, the European lad, basically responded to that and said, new day, new false hope. So that kind of is the situation, I think, with Antony, is that whilst United would still be in for him, and technically, I guess, still are if something changes. However, Flex, nothing looks like it's going to change on that one. That price tag of 100 million, 90 million, it's way too high. And Ajax know that's way too high for him. They don't want to sell. United don't want to buy a player for that kind of price. It's not happening, is it?
No, I don't think so. I think this is probably one of the quickest topics we'll ever do. I think it's as simple as that. Right now, we have been priced out. Again, that's unanimous. Everybody knows that. We know Ajax don't want to sell. We know Man United still like the player. But if anything was to change, i.e. Antony handed in a transfer request and really started digging his heels in, maybe that could change Ajax's stance. But as of now, I think Ajax are really, really strong on that, and I don't think they're going to move. And so I don't think Antony happens. You can never say never, but definitely doesn't happen for 100 million. But I'm not going to say they definitely won't lower the asking price. But the closer it gets to the season starting as well, when they're settled and they know what they've got going forward, I think Antony would have to do something that seems uncharacteristic of the player, which is really, I don't want to say going on strike. I don't want to speak ill of the guy because I don't know what his character is like. But for him to dig his heels in and say, look, here's my transfer request. I want out. Please find a way. Please. That's the only way it can happen. And even that, Ajax could still say, sorry, Antony, no. they won't pay this, so that's the only way you can go. And if they don't pay it, you have to stay. Do you know what I mean? What's he going to do? Go on strike? I don't think he would.
No, I don't see it. I think that one is is gone for this year, certainly. Something could happen. Maybe you never know in January, but maybe next summer. Depends what happens with the World Cup. You might have a really good World Cup. We'll see. But yeah, I think that one's gone. And people will say, it's because we didn't act early enough. Maybe there were other priorities. And again, going back to the De Jong thing, if we don't get De Jong, then people can probably fairly say, why did you put all your eggs in that basket when he never wanted to come and he stays at Barcelona, went to Barcelona? Why would they do that? But that's not the case at the moment.
No, it's not. It's not the case. And we have to wait for that to change. Let's move on, because this is one that I actually really do want to talk about. A lot of people have been talking about this Dean Henderson thing. Because I got some strong views on it. I know you're in the goalkeepers union. You may have some strong views on it as well. And I want to see what everyone else thinks. Obviously, look, he is on loan. He's not going to be with us this season. So in the grand scheme of things, it's a player that isn't playing for us right now, but he's still our player. But he was not scared to lift the lid on a lot of stuff yesterday. Let's go through some of what he said, and dissect it. And I want you guys' opinions at home as well. Are you bothered by it? Do you think it's a lack of disrespect? Do you think it's fair play to him because Man United messed him about, told him he was going to be number one and he wasn't? Or do you think he's just bang out of order? Let me know what you guys think. But Owen, what do we have as to what he said? Let's go through this.
Well, yes. But before we get to the quotes, we've got over 2,000 people watching, only 327 likes, Flex.
Oh,
I can't even get to the quote.
nowhere near the 750.
I can't even get to the quotes at that kind of level. You know what I mean?
That's
it
bad.
Makes me feel nervous.
Over 2K. Feel nauseous. Yeah, guys, come on. I mean, we haven't even done the base product of the 500, let alone the new bar, which is the 750. Come on, guys. We could. Yeah. If you haven't hit a like on the video, let's minimum get to 500 now, and then we can get 750 by the end of the show. Come on, guys. We're better than this. We're better than this.
There you go. But to get to some of these quotes from yesterday, so initially they came out from Talks, but some more have come out from, I think, ITV today. But this is what Henderson had to say. Quote, the conversation I had coming out of the Euro 2020 squad was that you're coming back here to be the number one goalkeeper. I got COVID. Unfortunately, no one followed through with anything they told me. I turned down so many good loans last summer for that reason, being promised the number one spot, and they wouldn't let me go. It was frustrating to sit there and waste 12 months is criminal, really, at my age. I was fuming. Now, when asked if he spoke to Erik ten Hag before going out on loan, he said, quote, no, I didn't really want the manager to come in and be able to see me in training because I knew he'd probably want to keep me. He then said, regarding his loan to Forest.
That's the one. Back yourself. Sorry, carry on.
He then said about his loan to Forest, quote, I tried to do it all before Ten Hag joined. I told the hierarchy I need to play football. I don't want to be here playing second fiddle. I was almost gone before the manager came in and I haven't spoke to him since.
Yes. Do you know what? I've got strong views on this, but I am going to open by saying, all right, cool. You back yourself. And actually, this does go back to something which we do know. Ollie was lying a lot. Like Ollie did, like things happened. Okay, things happened under. Because you get some people who get in their feelings. So don't say this about Ollie. Don't you still get that? Things happened under Ollie's watch that didn't make sense. Eric Bailly signed a new deal, big deal. Why? Was never going to play. Henderson was told he was going to be number one. And actually, I remember that presser that Ollie did do when he said, "Yeah, he will be United's future number one. He will be England's like because Ollie was like fully backing him." And when David De Gea went away for the birth of his child, he came back and he wasn't the number one anymore. Let's not forget that. Like that whole goalkeeping situation has done this. And one thing about Dean Henderson that he's always done is back his own ability. But for me, I think it's borderline disrespectful to come out and say it like that. I know he's been aggrieved and we like when players are refreshing and say how they feel and don't mix their words. I get that. That's not really it. But I'm like, one, to me, you haven't even proved you're better than David De Gea, mate, in my opinion. Like, it's this thing that, like, he backs himself to the cows come home, which you do need, especially as a keeper. Like, I get it. You need that mentality that I should be this. But it's the way you express it. I think it comes across as a bit arrogant. It comes across as a bit cocky. Ten Hag, that bit about, I knew that Ten Hag would want to keep me. basically. I didn't even want him to have a look at me in training because he would just give me the spiel.
I didn't want
Okay,
him to
again,
come in and see how good I was.
yeah, see how good I am with my feet and see how good I am playing out from the back. And I know I'm adding in things for effect, but he's allowed me, he's given me that avenue to go down by his tone. And I just feel like, all right, cool. I think it is true that we're not paying his wages. I think they are actually covering his wages, to be fair to Man United. They've got him off the wage bill for this year, but he is still our player. And if you had any aspirations of coming back and being number one, which I don't think he does anymore, but otherwise he wouldn't come out and say these things. I think he's like, I'm never going to be number one at Man United. They chose David over me. And he just seems quite bitter about that. And I just don't like some of the adjectives he was using during that. I get backing yourself. Got no problem with that. I get showing that you were frustrated to not play last year because you thought, but it's just the delivery of it I thought was a bit disrespectful, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think?
My feeling was, when it came to it, is I agree with what you're saying. I do think, especially as a goalkeeper, you have to back yourself. You have to back your ability. You have to be very, very confident to be a goalkeeper. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that he feels aggrieved. And I'm sure that he was, I don't know if the term is necessarily lied to. I do think he was probably made promises or reassurances, and things changed. That's football, unfortunately. Things do change. And as he mentioned, he was probably set to start. He was set to start last season as the number one goalkeeper. David De Gea, in an alternate universe, probably isn't even Man United's goalkeeper anymore because Henderson got COVID. That was the situation. The issue is,
and we all said it at the time.
In football. Yeah, the issue is, like anything in football, is that things can change in any position. Terrell Malacia is probably going to start this season for Manchester United because Luke Shaw was ill and he played a couple of games in pre-season. And then who knows, if Malacia plays well, that's his spot. Those are the breaks. Unfortunately, it's tough, especially in a goalkeeping position. You want continuity. I remember at the start of last season as well, whilst United still weren't playing that well, David De Gea had an unbelievable start really to last season. Yeah. He was making unbelievable saves. He won us the game at West Ham away, where he did the last-minute penalty save. He was doing unbelievable saves against Wolves, I remember, and even when we drew Southampton. Again, these are the early stages of last season. Yeah. So he was playing so well that it was a case of, once you do come back, Henderson, sorry, the other keeper's playing well.
Do you know what the irony is? Sorry, go on. Yeah, go on.
No, but again, and my point was, he'd gone, I turned so many loans down last summer and because I was promised number one spot. Again, that is unfortunate. And yes, that is frustrating, but things happened and they changed. And you know what? You can be aggrieved and you can be frustrated and you can say to those close to you, oh, I'm never going back to Manchester United. I'm really unhappy by the way I was treated. But also to come out in a public forum and basically be like, they lied to me. It was criminal what happened to me, rah, rah, rah. You sort of just go, just sit in that interview and just say, it was a frustrating season for me last season. My focus is this season is playing consistently. I'm really hoping to get into the World Cup squad. And then when it comes to my future at the end of the season, we'll see what happens.
Do you know what?
To come out and basically say like, it was criminal what happened to me. And, I was promised this and nobody followed through and it was false promises. I'm like a caged animal. You now have to back it up this season. If you get relegated with Forest and you're shit, then people are going to start looking around going, people are going to start looking at you going, that cage animal worked out well for you, didn't it? Get back in the cage, mate. That's what they'll say. So they are big words to say. That's the problem. And the way he said it, the tone he said it, that's a problem. He's still at a promoted club. They won the playoffs. Forest might stay up. They've spent a lot of money, 13 players. But they are fighting words.
You just done a KG. You just done a KG about realizing you've started off talking about it. And the more you've spoken about it, the more you're like, nah, this is a piss take. And there's another, you went Kevin Keegan. And there's another thing. I'd love it if they get relegated. And if he gets relegated, they'll be saying, get back in your cage, mate. Get back in your cage, mate.
All I'm saying is, when you start talking like that, you do have to back it up.
No, I agree. No, listen, I agree with everything you just said. It's just funny the way that the more you kept speaking about that, I could tell the more you were like, no. He's out of order for saying that. And
that's why I took a big inhale of breath before I started.
Mate.
Because I do try and give him the benefit of the doubt because I put myself in those shoes and I go, I'd be frustrated. I would be frustrated because you would thinking you're going to be the number one goalkeeper for Manchester United. But at the same time, if it didn't work out, it doesn't work out. Life doesn't always work out, unfortunately.
Picnic says he said it's criminal for a 25-year-old to waste a year of his life. Like, Like, he's not in the twilight years. Like, I just think there's a few things. The context of this is, imagine that interview was supposed to be so, like, look at the setting of that interview. They do those every year with the Premier League, where they have them fun days where they launch in the Premier League. I think a player from each club kind of
Seems
comes
like a lot of
down.
fun, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to kind of, integrate with the
How are you
kids.
feeling for the
Like,
season, Dino? I'm a caged animal. I've
yeah,
been lied to.
exactly. Like the
No,
like he
sir,
he's
this is a
used that
McDonald's. Jesus.
100%. He's used that, like, I've been waiting to get this off my chest. This isn't like a sit down with the Athletic, like, to dive into how he's really. That was just like, oh, we can catch up with Dean Henderson. He's here at the at the Premier League Fun Day, and they've got that. They probably thought, bloody hell, didn't think we'd get that. And the other thing I was going to say about the irony of it all, and you saying that's just football. Dean Henderson ended up getting the number one spot on a technicality because David De Gea had a child, and he seized his opportunity. So for Dean Henderson to then, when the roles get reversed and it's just how the cookie crumbles in professional football, for him to not understand that and just go down that tack, I think is quite ironic, because he wasn't saying it's criminal that David De Gea went away for the birth of his daughter, came back and wasn't the number one anymore. He just went, listen, I wish David all the best, but this is my chance to sign now. And he did okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, he did okay. And to be fair, the way it worked out was that actually the more important games were actually in the Europa League, because we were going into the latter stages. So it actually worked
You
out all
said
right by the end of it.
he did okay.
He just did okay.
I remember when we played
Liverpool.
City. When he played City, did the rollout to, or the throw out to Luke Shaw, and we scored a good counter attacking goal. I also remember playing Liverpool, and he was really poor. His angles for one of the Salah goal were way off. And I remember
Yeah.
thinking at the time, that's in an empty stadium, let alone a full
Yeah.
one. It's
Well, we said
Manchester
at the end of
United.
that season, didn't we? We're going into the season where he then got COVID and didn't start. We all said it's one thing doing it under these circumstances where we had the best away record because we were playing games behind closed doors and all that. Remember that when we went the longest unbeaten away record or whatever it was? No fans, mate. As soon as fans came back, we shit a brick and we finished sixth. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, let's just have it right. And we all said we want to see. Did we finish fifth or sixth last? Sixth, so yeah. We want to see Dean Henderson do it when the stakes are really, really high. And unfortunately, he got COVID, and David De Gea proved why it was the best keeper in that time. And you didn't get back in, mate. It's not criminal. It's not, it's not disgusting from the club. It's how the cookie crumbles. It wasn't disgusting when you got an opportunity because he had a child. So
And make no mistake, I would say the same thing. If David De Gea, right, had gone through that situation last season, say David De Gea was on the bench all through last season and he left this summer and he went somewhere else and he did an interview and he went, it was a disgrace. I was on the bench for the entire season. Who do they think I am, David De Gea, or what have I done? I'd be saying the exact same stuff now as I am about Henderson. I'd be saying it's disrespectful. There's ways to say things in a public forum. You can have your grievances. You can have things you're upset about. You can have things that you were promised and weren't delivered to you. But when you do those interviews, everyone knows how you talk in those interviews. Go, yeah, it was a bit frustrating, but it's a new challenge. I'm looking forward and just hoping to do my best season. And then, I've got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. What am I like? But I'm hoping to prove myself.
I just think
that's the way to do it.
He could have handled it completely different, and he chose to take that tact and come out swinging. And I just feel there was just no need to do that. I get the bit of actually the criticism which is on the club, which is the handling of situations.
100%.
Why are you telling him that he's going to be that? I get that. Why are you giving Eric Bailly a new contract? Why are you giving other players new contracts we can't get rid? That's a whole different ballgame. But for him to come out and do it like that, I think he's wrong. Lastly, to finish off, and Simon Stone in the last sort of 10-15 minutes has spoken about this move as well, and we've already known it really. But Alex Telles is edging closer to Sevilla.
Yes, Alex Telles is very close to completing a move to Sevilla. According to Fabrizio Romano, he will join on a season-long loan. This one kind of sped up quite a lot yesterday, with Romano saying that Sevilla are closing in on Alex Telles, a deal with Manchester United. The player has accepted the destination and the agreement is set to be completed. It's a matter of final details discussed between the clubs. As you mentioned, Simon Stone has also just confirmed the same thing. It looks to be as if he's going to Sevilla. It doesn't look it's going to be a permanent transfer. Looks like it's going to be a loan. We don't know about obligations to buy, options to buy, etc. as far as I'm aware just yet. But it looks like Telles is going to be going on loan. To be honest, Flex, I'm kind of glad in the sense of you could see in pre-season that it always felt quite awkward because we've got the two left backs and Telles was then played as basically whatever we didn't have, that's where Telles played in pre-season. Centre back, we haven't got a centre back, we'll put him there. defensive mid at one point. You know, he played
He
as a
got
DM.
rinsed. He got rinsed.
You
And he
know,
played everywhere but his actual position to be able to impress the new manager. Imagine a new manager comes in and they play you in every position but yours. Like then this new
which is
kid
concern
Malacia
for me
comes
in
in.
goal. You know what I mean? Owen, you're
Yeah.
playing left wing.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. Oh, you got to play DM now. Oh, you got to play centre back, and you're a keeper. But yeah, and then I think even before the tour, as soon as Malacia came in, that was it. It was over. And then tour just literally he was coming on. I mean, he came on against Palace. No, when he came on against was it Palace or was it Villa? One of them, our midfield was like Tellez, Charlie Savage, and someone else. And I remember
Yeah,
thinking,
one of them he came on and
like,
he was a DM, and I
he was
remember
literally a
saying
DM.
during the match view at the time, I was going, "This isn't a Ten Hag like masterstroke of always trying to convert Tellez to a DM. It's we
No,
don't have it. We don't have anyone else. We just need a player out there. So we
yeah,
got to put
just
him out
we
there."
just need someone to run around and fill a void. So the writing's on the wall. I think we all got excited when Tellez came. Looking at some of the comps, he was hitting free kicks in, taking pens, and he's an attacking fullback. He's going to cross loads. The reality is we got sold a dud. Let's just be honest. He's not good enough. Never been good enough. And slowly, I remember we came on against PSG and looked all right. It was like, okay, he might be, but slowly it just went downhill, didn't it? So yeah, Tellez to Sevilla on loan. But again, it's another player come in, probably on big wages. Now we've made a bad decision. Now we've got to loan him only 2 years later. It's just more us reaping what we sow, in it, like having to live through the bad decisions and stand by the decisions that we made before we can get. And just to finish off, he's not the only player that we're willing to listen to offers for. Obviously, Brandon Williams, Tuanzebe is in there, attracting interest from Bournemouth. Eric Bailly still tipped to go to Roma, or interest in him. Phil Jones tipped to go to DC United. So there's a lot of defenders who need to get off the books anyway, to be fair, which they do. Wan-Bissaka's still a big one as well, if we get in another right back instead of him, because he is more than surplus. I mean, didn't play against Rayo Vallecano. I don't know if it's because he's injured and that. Was he even on the bench against
No, he wasn't on
Atletico?
the bench.
There's
No,
not really been
no,
anything
he
of
wasn't
he's picked
involved
up
in
a knock,
either.
or so that's a bit weird. There's usually you would get there's an injury,
Yeah,
We haven't even
even KG was saying on Monday, it's game over for him. I
it's
think
game over,
it's game
100%
over.
game over. But having said that, if Dallo got injured tomorrow, what would we do? Do you know what I
Call
mean?
back Ethan Laird, bring him back. He played
Yeah,
all right.
actually true. And that's another one. Even he played all right, but he's tipped to go to Watford. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that looks like it's in the final stages, which actually him playing week in, week out in the championship, he needs to play. If we want him to be that guy for us, he needs to go and play now. Unless Wan-Bissaka did get a move and they did pause it, but I don't think that will happen. So yeah, guys, big up. Thanks for watching. Smash a like on the video. Oh, where did we get to actually? 550. We didn't get to the 750 then. Can we push? Can we push? That would be great. While we just read these last two super chats. Yeah, there's two, one from Stephen Lilly and one from Ray Diaz. While I read that, can we get to 750? Doubt it, but please try.
What a challenge.
Steve, what a challenge. 750 in 1 minute. Can we do that? Well, it isn't 750 in 1 minute, but can we get to that within the next 1 minute? Stephen Lilly says, sorry for Hendo, but class outs De Gea has consistently been United's only world-class player since Sir Alex Ferguson left. Everyone else either hasn't been or they've left. And Ray Diaz says, is that Fleck and Owen from Sky Sports? Hashtag moving on up. Yeah, it was great seeing you on Sky Sports the other day, Owen. I didn't actually get to speak to you, but
I know,
it's good
I
seeing you
know,
there.
I know.
Yeah,
It was
that was weird.
fancy seeing you here. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
bumped into you virtually.
Looking all snazzy in the studio, showing off the studio and that. Yeah,
Got
nice.
to represent, haven't you? We've got world class facilities. We show them off. People said that it looked like I had dyed my hair red, and I was like,
Did it?
I'm not that keen.
Was it the
Yeah.
lighting? Was it?
I was
Might
like,
have been the
no
lighting.
chance. But no,
Yeah.
it was amazing, and excited for the future, right? The UV
100%.
taking over.
UV takeover. UV's everywhere. Speaking of that as well, I will be back in the Sky Sports studio tomorrow morning, representing UV as well, live at 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. So make sure you guys tune in as well. And we'll also have a show here for you guys as usual every morning as well. We didn't get to 750. It looks like we might just get to 650 maybe. But big up, smash a like on the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are out of here. Peace.